What's up, everyone? Alex here. Welcome to my little corner of the internet. I wanted to react to some more comments because I'm clueless on identity-related content that I can publish right now. I feel like I talk so much about my own identity, and I feel like I have said so much. I've said enough. Somebody just drove by on a motorcycle or a jet plane or a lawnmower. One of those things just drove by my window. So I think I've said pretty much all there is to say about myself. So I want to try other types of content and see where we can go with that. So I want to react to comments. I did like a respond to hate comments kind of thing, and it is an opportunity for the commenter to learn. It's not a chance for me to dig into this person and embarrass them. I don't even give away like who commented. If it's a public comment, then like that just happens. Like it's in the comments somewhere. But if it got filtered out, I don't bother like giving out. Even if it's a public comment, I don't bother giving out the name of the person. So whichever, it's not a opportunity for people to bully. It's a good chance for people to learn to be a little bit better in this community. So this one person had commented on a video about Xenogenders, about being Xeno-aligned, one of the two things, one of the lesser known identities that I talked about. And they had quite a lot to say. This first comment, they started out with my favorite phrase, no offense. No offense, but from what I've seen, it just sounds like people are describing things they like, referring to Xenogenders. If you like cats, that's not a new gender. Even in this video, you seem to really struggle just to articulate what that is even supposed to mean. Ungendered concepts, as you put it. If an ungendered concept is a gender, then what even is a gender? Wouldn't it be far more constructive to just accept who you and everyone else is as a person rather than making personality a gender? Because that really invalidates the purpose of language, I think is what they meant to say. If we take words that already mean something and make them umbrella terms for whatever, then what do those words even mean at all? It just really doesn't sound very constructive to see gender as someone's identity rather than just a small part of that human. Gender doesn't matter. Humans are humans. I did actually reply to this person in a constructive way, but I kind of wanted to take the chance to really break this comment down. I think I ended up replying through mobile, but so that made it even harder for me to really articulate what I wanted to say. But people describing things they like, making a personality or a hobby, an interest, your gender. Let's pull it back. Let's say that we are saying this about any other gender. What if we said this about men? I'm not a man because I like men. I'm not a man because that's an interest, a hobby. I don't consider being a man part of my personality. That doesn't make it a normal gender, and then Xenogenders are the ones that are based on your personality, or like anything like that. It's just that functionally is how Xenogenders also work. The way that you are raised, your environment shapes who you are as a person. Identity isn't just your personality and the things you like. There's so much more to it. The things you believe in, the things that shape how you view your body, your idealized self, whether that's mental, physical, social, whichever. There's so many different aspects that go into your identity, and it doesn't really make sense to say you're a man, that's your personality. Then you get into gender essentialism. It's like men will be men kind of thing. So let's not do that. That's going into very dangerous territory if you really look into it in that way. So genders are not just personalities. People are not taking random frivolous things and making them into genders. It's based on how they were shaped as a person and how they view gender, and how sometimes it's how gender has oppressed them as a person, how they want to subvert the idea of gender because of how gender was imposed on them. There's so many different reasons to call yourself anything. You don't choose your gendered experience, you just choose the labels. And I mean, sometimes it's a label that directly correlates with an abstract concept or some kind of aspect of nature, or I mean, yeah, even fandoms. But that's not saying that a thing that you're a fan of can be your gender. A lot of people have different neurotypes. A lot of people have different mental illnesses. People cope in different ways. People escape in different ways. People have a sense of self that changes, that is fluid, that fluctuates, and that is reflected in how they experience gender sometimes. And yeah, autogender is one of the things that it's always the punching bag in spaces that are trying to make gender a strict trinary of male, female, other. And they forget that other is a way broader term than the gender binary. It encompasses so many more experiences, but autism can affect the way you view your gender. Borderline personality disorder can affect the way you view your gender. Plurality, having headmates of conflicting identities, that can affect the way that you view your own gender. I've had that issue before, and it's a real slap in the face for people like me when you say that, like, oh, you can just call anything a gender. You can just say that, like, you like the color yellow, so I guess that's your gender now. And it's so much more than that. There's so much nuance to what gender is. It's cultural, it's social, it's how you were raised, it's physical, sometimes physiological. There's so many different things that go into, like, why you experience a gender. So what even is gender? Well, unfortunately, I remember explaining to this to a person on Tumblr before, that gender doesn't exist in a vacuum, unfortunately. Our understanding of gender is based on how we were raised to view gender, and sometimes it really is like we had a traditional understanding of what a man was, what a woman was. And then we began to realize that some of us do not fall into those categories and find ourselves outside of that. And some of us decided that maybe we were a little bit of both. Maybe I'm sitting here itching my calf on camera. What is wrong with me? That's so not informal, just strange. I guess I'm just antsy because of this kind of like content. I get really into what I need to say, and then I guess I itch. Some people really only have the reference point of culturally what they were taught to, what gender was. Like, whether you're like from the United States or whether you're from Europe or like a country in Africa or Australia, like all over the globe, we are taught this thing called gender. And some of it kind of fits the same old narrative, men, women, and then like there's always like someone who does not fit what that means, what man and woman means. So unfortunately, like, our only reference point is what we understood to be man and woman. If the concept of men and women didn't exist at all, I don't think we would really have gender as a concept. Not in the same way that we experience it now, because you would ask a non-binary person, what does that mean that you're non-binary? And they'll say that they are not man or woman, and they still have a reference point to the binary. So it's not like they exist without ever having experienced gender or learning about gender in any way. So what even is gender? well, besides the millions and millions of things that could come together to shape your gender, which is what I had talked about earlier, that's pretty much it. Gender is our social understanding of ourselves, whether that is a status or a physiological understanding of ourselves, or how we present ourselves as a person, based on that fundamental understanding of like man and woman, our understanding of the binary. Tons of us do not relate to the binary at all. We do away with that idea, but that idea was still there. We still knew that the gender binary existed. Therefore, we subvert it. There would be no reason to subvert the binary if it did not exist. Let me find what I had said to this one person on the YB3 blog, which I'm probably going to rename it that, the YB3 blog, but it's not tied with my zine, but it was the reason why I created my zine. But it's daily positivity posts for bigender, polygender people. And this one person had sent me an ask that relates to this concept, and I really want to find it. So here we go. It seems a little silly that I have to go and read something I had replied to somebody else, but I can't always remember what I had said. I am not academically minded. I cannot always explain things in such a succinct way or articulate things in a way that covers all bases and makes sense and is pretty much not airtight, but, well constructed. And it's important to understand that it doesn't mean that my argument is bad just because I can't articulate things. That goes for anybody who is like in the comments. It happens sometimes. Gender doesn't exist in a vacuum, unfortunately. A lot of our gendered experiences are based on what we understand right now. If the binary didn't exist, we wouldn't have a word like non-binary. If gender didn't exist, there'd be no agender, and etc., etc. When you say you're a woman or a man, you base it on your relationship, on both your relationship to our understanding of what a man or a woman is, and how you wish to either conform to or subvert those labels. What that means is deciding what womanhood or manhood means to you, not what the overall uninfluenced objective meaning of those genders is. You may not find the answer to that. There is no unobjective? There is no uninfluenced idea of gender. There's always gender as a concept based on, how we were taught, how we were raised to understand gender. So gender exists. It's messy. It's based on, gender happened, gender was imposed, and now we are working to reshape what the idea of gender is. The worst thing that you could do in the name of progress is think that you are in the best spot right now, that there is no further room for improvement or for new information. We're humans. We're very much new to this planet, and we are very much new to this decade, to this year, and there's still more to learn. We didn't have an understanding of a lot of different types of genders 10 years ago, 20 years ago. There's a lot of concepts that we use now, that we talk about now, that we didn't understand before, and that's okay. People existed back then with no understanding of those concepts, and then eventually came to understand those concepts. That was such a ramble, and I hope that came across okay. I hope that made sense, that, we're working on it. We're working on our understanding of gender, and yeah, maybe someday gender won't matter in the same way that it matters now, but gender still matters, no matter what kind of label you decide to use, or how you relate to the binary or subvert the binary, whether you have what people would think are conflicting labels that you use to describe your identity. That's all perfectly valid and okay to experience. So right now, yeah, we are rethinking gender in concepts we've never really talked about before. More than just the body, more than just transitioning, and more than just I'm a man who wants to look like a woman, or a woman who wants to look like a man, or someone who wants to look like both, or relate to like some third option in between those two. It's more than that. We are rethinking the concept of gender. So we're just kind of in a weird gray area right now. Wouldn't it be far more constructive to just accept who you are and everyone else is as a personality, rather than making personality a gender? You can do both. To refuse to see any aspect of someone's identity, their gender, their orientation, where they come from, what traditions that they partake in, their religion, their spirituality, their lack thereof. You are refusing to see them as a person. Like, why? If all a person is a personality, then like, what do you see in everyday people? Like, a person is shaped by so many different things, gender being one of them, personality. Yeah, sure. There's so many different things that make a person. Why only see one little aspect of a person? It sounds like you are picking apart people and only seeing what you want to see in them. So stripping a person down to just their personality, at that point it's an archetype. You're like, okay, that's the jock, that's the bully, that's the cool kid, that's the nerd, that's like like it's well, I mean, now I'm thinking in terms of high school dynamics. I did not mean to imply that being a bully was a personality, though some people do love to make that their personality. I spent 20 minutes talking about this. Gender doesn't matter. Humans are humans. Gender matters to humans. Like, things matter to people, and the things that matter to someone don't have to matter to you personally. Like, gender matters to me, but there's a lot of people in this community, gender doesn't matter to them. They don't care. It's when you start not caring about other people's gender and other aspects of identity, that's where it becomes a problem. So it's cool if gender is just gender to you and it does not have any effect on who you are as a person. But when you refuse to see that in another person, that's where that becomes a problem. That's pretty much what I had said to them. When you ignore aspects of identity in others, then you're not seeing the humanity in them, because humanity is shaped by so many different things, and gender would be one of them. I believe I have more to this conversation. I do. Holy moly. I got a really long, like, I don't know why I took the screenshot. I took the length of the screenshot and didn't cut it, so it looks awful and hard to read. I had posted in my Discord server, and I had asked for help with articulating, like, I don't know how to argue against this, to educate this person, but I would like to. You are saying that like it's an alien concept that we are figuring out right now, rather than a made-up concept. If we make up a concept, we should be able to define it. I'm going to take it piece by piece. How is accepting people as personalities, not seeing the humanity in them, but trying to label and categorize people is? We've made up a lot of concepts that we did define. Yeah, we have a definition for gender. We had defined gender, and then we improved on that definition. We improved on our understanding of that concept, or we are in the process of doing so. We said that Pluto was a planet because our understanding of planets was what we could see in the observable solar system around us. And then we were like, whoa, there's other things that are like Pluto, but not like the other planets in our solar system. So our concept of a planet was shaped by that understanding of like, whoa, there's more there. There's more there. There's more there to understand. Like, if you go beyond the Kuiper Belt, there's so much more out there than our, like, what we had defined as a planet or a star. So yeah, if we make up a concept, we should be able to define it, but definitions change. Definitions are based on usage. Planet had a definition, and then we realized that something didn't fit our definition of a planet once we realized that there was this weird planet, and then there were other weird planets just like it, and then we were like, oh, those aren't planets. Those are not planets. Those are something else, and we recategorize those. And that's basically what we're doing here. Yeah, we defined one thing and then started building on it and then redefined it. We do that as people. We do that all the time. If you ask someone in the 19th century what a camera was, they'd probably say that it's a thing. It's an image that's printed on aluminum, that is embossed on an aluminum card thing. I don't know what those are called. I guess they are still photographs, but our understanding of cameras now is this camera that I'm holding up to a camera. So we redefined that by building on our understanding of how imagery works and how photography works. There you go. There's that. Accepting people as personalities, not seeing the humanity in them, trying to label and categorize them. We label and categorize ourselves. We choose to give ourselves labels, give ourselves I'm bigender. It's under the non-binary category. That's under the trans category. So you're going to have to make a decision here. You're going to have to decide, do you want gender to be defined, to have a definition? That means it's got categories. That means you categorize gender into, these are non-binary genders. These are the binary genders. Transgender means this, and under that, non-binary, and under that, multigender. And here are a bunch of different multigender identities, several of them. I talk about them all the time on the YB3 blog. So either you want that, or you don't want to see people being categorized, which means that you don't want a strict definition of what gender is. You accept that it is a loose concept, or a concept that is still being refined, that is ever changing depending on who you ask. You have to decide one thing or the other. You cannot have both. So accept that we do have a definition of gender, and it depends on who you ask and what their experience with gender is. And yeah, you can put concepts like demigender, polygender, multigender, trigender, gender flux, gender fluid, bigender, all under the multigender label. Multigender's under the non-binary label, so is agender, so is neutroid, maverick, proxphere. There's so many. And then further up from that, the non-binary label's under the trans label. So is transmasculine, transfeminine, transneutral, and, non-binary, and all those other concepts that I just moved up the tree. I still have my phone in my hand. But, you can accept both of those things that, we have ways of quantifying and categorizing concepts that are gender related. And it doesn't mean we're putting people in boxes. It means that we're defining this aspect of identity just like we would anything else. That we do that all the time. Like a Nissan Altima is a car, it's an automobile, and that's a vehicle. It is a mode of transportation. You see how I went very specific and into more broad things? That's there's nothing wrong with having an understanding of a concept like that. Does that make sense? I feel like I'm getting a little flustered, but also I had a lot of coffee. Things that shape you as a person, not gender. It's antithetical to the nature of the term, as it is inherently about the sexual nature of something. I didn't catch this part. Gender's a sexuality now? That's kind of an archaic misunderstanding of you're transgender, it must mean you're gay or something. That one threw me off. I did not expect that one. There's gender and sexuality, unless you mean sex, body parts, primary and secondary sexual characteristics. Maybe that's what they meant. I don't think they did. But things that shape you as a person shape you as a person. We went over this. Gender shapes you as a person. So does, like, your understanding of attraction and thousands, millions of other things. We're off that topic. When we observe the main character of a story develop and become a completely different person, we talk about their personality, ideals, and behavior, right? Not their gender. It just sounds so superficial. Next blonde is going to be the next gender. After all, being blonde is a tiny part of me, right? So you're talking about both personality and gender. Those are two different things. That's the problem, is that personality or morals, aspirations, there's another word I'm thinking of and I can't think of what it is right now. Like, gender's like a separate concept from that. This person convinced themselves that we are making personality aspects into genders strictly. Like, that's all that's happening here. Like, every, like, personality trait is a gender now. They convince themselves of that, and now that's their arguing point. That's what I'm having trouble with, is that they are so focused on that and they cannot remove gender from the personality, like, argument that they made. Also, blonde is not a personality. Maybe in really bad misogynistic jokes, but that's starting to go a little off the rails, though. This part, not good. It is true that girls and boys have tendencies to behave different, but behavior and personality isn't a gender. A tomboy isn't a boy. A girl can behave however she likes as an individual. Just because girls have a tendency to behave a certain way doesn't mean that girls can't have different personalities. And it doesn't mean that girls with different personalities are boys. People are people. People have unique personalities. Is everyone a different gender now? That's a good question. I like that question a lot. Is everyone a different gender? Is every single person on the planet a different gender? I like that. Just think about that question. Hold that in your mind. That's it. Just think about it while you're looking up why you're wrong. While you're further understanding or further informing yourself by looking up definitions and getting a better understanding of the community. Let me see. How far are we going to go to remove this term from its original meaning? What's the next term we rid of meaning? Back to the photography thing, back to what a camera is. That's all I have to say on that. But girls and boys do not have inherent tendencies or behaviors. We are not going into gender essentialism. Tomboy, that's not a gender any more than transmasculine is a gender. Like, it can be, you can consider that to be your gender, but it can be based on mannerisms. It can be based on masculinity. It depends on how that person decides that tomboy means for them. And that's the important thing, is that, like, if someone says they are a tomboy, they have their own understanding of what that means for themselves. There is no objective, universal understanding of the word tomboy. Not really. It might be a girl who has some kind of draw to masculinity, but they could also have some kind of interest in, binary malehood in some way. And that just depends on the person. It could just purely be based on gender presentation, which, yeah, can be based on behaviors, mannerisms, and your outward appearance, but not a gender in the same way that male is a gender. That's a little bit different there. So you're talking about gender presentation, or gender expression is actually a better way to call, like, tomboy, like, what it is, like gender expression. To exemplify, imagine I tell people I have a cute cat. The sentence holds information because of our common understanding of what a cat is. Common understanding of gender. I talked about that based on what we called, our understanding of gender, like, traditionally. Our understanding of the gender binary and all that. If I arrive to my home and don't find a cat, and I explain that my PC is a xenocat, then that's just confusing to them. Why choose terms that don't actually correlate to what I'm trying to communicate? It's just word soup at this point. Gender has a meaning. Gender has a defined meaning, and I gave that to you. So that makes this point null, basically. There I go, itching again. Like, a cat is a cat. But what you don't realize is that a cat isn't just like the 4 furry things that are outside my door, probably scratching at the door frames, or thinking about doing it. They eat out of a little food dish. They like feather toys. They like to drink water. One of them likes to drink out of the kitchen sink, so I have to put a big heavy board over the sink to block him from doing that. They're adorable. They got little toe beans and they make biscuits, and like, those are my cats. Cat is a larger term referring to felines, not feliforms. A hyena is a feliform. It's not a cat. Feline shaped is what that means. But a cat also means a tiger. I don't have tigers in my home. But words like, when you say cat and you're like, I got a cat at home, I know what you mean. I know you don't mean a tiger. I know you don't mean an ocelot, unless you specifically say, oh, I have like a 500-pound animal at home. It's a cat, but it's a big cat. Like, I know what you mean. If I say I'm bigender or non-binary, like, or I have this understanding of gender, when I say gender, like, you know what I mean. You know what I mean when I say gender. That part doesn't make sense. I couldn't explain that part, mostly because it's getting a little weird. And then this person, let me read the rest completely and then just kind of pick it apart a little bit. But it did go a little off the rails. To take another example, the race of a person is just a biological detail of them. They often come with cultural backgrounds and biological conditions that will always affect behavior as well. But in principle, the race of a person is just that. A black person can display the same range of personality and character that a white person can. Their skin color and other racial features are details about them and should be accepted whatever they may be. Now, there are people that unironically think that they are transracial. Later on, people made up xenoraces, races that don't really have anything to do with race. So this person is just saying that, like, xenorace is a thing because xenogender is a thing. Okay. Does this person not realize where xeno comes from? That's the ironic part. Now, what even is race at this hypothetical point? What does it mean? What I'm getting at is that it's probably a more practical use of language to have terms that describe something rather than having umbrella terms that describe anything. Back to the cat thing. Umbrella term that refers to thousands and thousands of different types of animals, and very few of them would ever be in my house. So there's that. I think humans would ultimately be better off to accept their gender, race, hair color, etc., and bloom as personalities rather than trying to make their personality a gender, race, or hair color. They're fixated on the personality thing. And racist? A bit. Like, that certain races, certain cultures have certain behaviors. They probably meant something else, but they probably should have articulated that a lot better. Humans are complex beings. I've definitely said that. And trying to describe them in labels is just reducing an entire personality into one word. This person not only think that blonde was a personality, but decided that, I don't know, hold on. Humans are complex beings, and trying to describe them in labels is just reducing an entire personality into one word. I could describe myself superficially over an entire page, but who I am, I say quotes, but it was emphasized, is not something you can figure out by reading my driver's license, much less in one word. So definitely abolish gender markers on a driver's license, first of all. Do that. Like, now that I have that in mind, do away with that. I told this person, first, you should probably stop telling transgender people their genders are just personalities. And 2, stop comparing this issue to race before it starts to sound really bad. Also realize that race is a made-up social concept, much like gender, and some racist white guy was the one who came up with the idea. He came up with, like, this is the shape of the skull and the face, and like this is what I'm calling them. And some of them were not nice words, but it kind of stuck. And yeah, race is very important to people as a concept. Like someone's race, like that is part of who shaped, or part of who shaped, part of what shaped who they are as a person. But race was not a great concept to like bring into this. And then I asked them, take the time to teach yourself about xenogenders and what that identity means to some people. It would be incredibly helpful to you as an ally. That's always what I want, is that, like, eventually, like, people who think these things, people who are making these assumptions about other people's identities, eventually they go on to be very good allies to the community once they have a better understanding. And I trust someone who has fumbled and messed up so much and, like, struggled to gain an understanding. I trust them more than someone who has never made a single mistake, who's never had a misunderstanding of a concept. Because if you're misunderstanding a concept, it means that you can go on and understand that concept and read about it. It's way better than thinking you know everything. So, like, potential allies, like, this is a good opportunity for that. So I do implore that person go on and get involved in the xenogender community. And it's okay to ask questions, but don't do this. Like, this is invasive, and there's a lot of assumptions, especially that, like, your gender is your personality. That part, not good. That is not good. So, yeah, definitely go on and, try to gain a better understanding of what gender means to different people. And when you come out of it, hold on to that question that you had. Does everyone on Earth have a different gender? I like that. That really jumped out at me. So, definitely keep that in mind when doing your research or trying to get a better understanding of any community, really. And that's pretty much it. I had another comment to cover, but I think it was very important to cover this and pick it apart a little bit better than... I mean, I was probably in a moving vehicle, or I was probably laying in bed when I was responding to this person. I was not driving the vehicle, but yeah, I did not get the chance to really articulate it because, it took me, as of recording, 46 minutes to explain all this and to really articulate the idea of gender and to hit all the points that this person had brought up. And I could not have possibly done that in a reply, or else it would have been a long post. So that's what I got for you. And while I can't tell you don't leave comments like this on someone's page, do ask the deep questions, because that helps you gain an understanding. But there's so many people in the community, in the xenogender community, the non-binary community, transgender community, and not everyone can handle getting questions like this, being bombarded with all these, like, how do you really know you're this? Because technically that's what, like, this is what gender is. So, like, maybe you're not really this. Like, that's what it's kind of leading into. And we've heard these arguments before for any kind of identity. I've been told that being transgender is fake, that maybe I'm just going through a weird phase and trying to slowly talk me out of being transgender, which is not possible. You can't stop someone from being transgender any more than you can stop them from being xenogender. Is my camera not focusing? Well, if I messed it up, I messed it up. But yeah, that's what I got for you. So, be kinder and look beyond the definition of a term. That's all I got for you. So, I am signing off for now. See you later.